Hello team, welcome back. And from this section, we will learn about the Python object orientation. So we will see the object oriented programming concepts in the Python, and we will see how Python is a object oriented programming language. In the object oriented programming language, the first thing what we will learn is the classes and object. Because we are talking about the object oriented programming language, so it is necessary to talk about the object. What are the objects, how you can create the objects, and what are the attributes of the object. So let's start with, and very first we will learn about the classes and object. So what is a class in Python, or what is a class in general in object orientation? The class is a user-defined data type that contains the data in terms of the variable and the methods in terms of the functions together. So basically, class is a unit in which you will bind the variables and functions together. Within a single class, you can have the multiple variables and you can have the multiple methods in a single unit. And these variables and these functions or the methods are associated with this particular class only. So class is a combination of the data and the method or functions which you can perform on that data. Then what is the object? The object is the instance or part of a class. So to make the object, first you need to create the class. Whenever you are going to create the object in the object oriented programming language, very first the existence of class is required, because object you will create from the class. Shortly we will see how we can create the class and how we can create the object. Because the object is an instance of the class, so it will contain the same variable as its class but may store the different value. So basically within the class you can define the declaration of the data, but in the object of that class you can save or you can store the actual value of that data, right? So object is something which will contain the data of the class or the data of variable which is defined in the class. As I told you that class is a combination of the variables and the functions. So we can define the variables and a function as a class attribute and class behavior. The variable could be the attribute and the function could be the behavior. Let me tell you an example. So let's understand what is the class and what is the object. So let's suppose you want to create a program for the bikes. What are the things which you can have in the bike? The bike could have the color, the bike could have the gear, the bike could have the engine, the bike could have the tires, and there are multiple things which a bike can have. But the common thing is that bike will share some common attribute. They will have some common function. Like these are the attributes of the bike. What could be the common function? That bike will move forward. Another function could be the gear shifting. Another function could be the start. It could be the kick start or electric start. Another function could be the brakes. So these are the functions. These are the attributes of the bike, that bike could have the color, gear, engine, tire, and there could be the n number of things. And these are the functions, that bike will move further, the bike will have the gear shifting, either that could be the manual or automatic. The bike will have the start function, either that is electric or kick start. The bike will have the brakes. There are n number of functions available in the bike. But do you believe that these things, the attribute and the functions of the bike, are basically specific to any company? No, they are specific to the term which is a bike. Either you are using the BMW bike, or you are using the Ducati bike, or you are using the Harley bike. It doesn't matter. That few things which a bike could have will be available in each the bike. The bike will have the color, it will have the gear, it will have the engine, it will have the tire, it will move forward, it will have the gear shifting, kick start or electric start or the brakes. So over here you can assume that this could be the class. You can combine these things in a class called bike, where the bike will have its own attributes and it will have its own functions. What is the benefit of creating the class of the bike? Let me share an example. Let's suppose you are going to create a program where you are writing down the program for the bikes, and in the market there are 100 of the bikes available. So will you go and create the separate function for each bike? Even a single company have the 20 or 25 bike models available in the market. Will you create the separate methods for each model of bike? And let's suppose you are creating the things in a way, and suddenly somebody will introduce a new feature in the bike, and that feature will be available in all 25 models of that company. Will you going to update the all 25 methods which have you created for that particular bike? Definitely it will create the maintenance. So what we will do, we will create a single class of the bike, and each model, whatever the model you are going to use in a future, that will create the object of this class. So either we are using the BMW bike, or you are using the Ducati, or you are using the Harley. You will create the object of this bike class and define the attribute which are specific to the BMW or Ducati or Harley. It may possible that the BMW bike may have the manual gear shifting, but Ducati have the automatic gear shifting available in the bike. So you just need to put the gear shifting attribute as per the company, as per the model. You don't need to create each and everything again and again, right? You will create a single object of the bike class, and in that object the BMW specific thing will have the BMW data, the Ducati thing will have the Ducati data, and the Harley will have the Harley data. This is the benefit of the class. Let me create a program so that it will be more clear. So over here I will close this directory and I will create another directory in the Python basics. I will call it oops. In the oops, very first I will create a new file, my first class .py. So how we can declare the class? The thing is, how we can declare the class? To declare the class, you need to use the class keyword. And after this, you need to define the name of your class. Let's suppose we are defining bike. Put a colon, hit enter. So we have defined the class bike. Now this class bike will have the attribute. Like bike will have few attributes, like the bike could have the color. Right now I'm defining none. It could have the tire size. It could have the price. It could have the model name. It could have the fuel type, and there could be the n number of things. So what are these things? These are the attributes of class, right? Where we are defining the attribute of the class. Similarly, we can have the behavior of the class. So what could be the behavior of the bike? The behavior could be bike will move either forward or the backward. Bike will have the gear shifting either manual or automatic. Bike will have the start either electric or manual. Bike will have the brake system. So this is the behavior, right, which is defining the behavior of your class. So behavior always define in a function. So we will define a function like ride type and define print move forward, right? This is the one behavior. So we will define the another behavior like explain attribute, and over here we can print few things like color is define the self dot color. Don't confuse with the self. I will tell you what is the use of this self over here and over here. Similarly, we can explain the other attribute of the bike. 1, 2, 3. Like tire size, we could have the price and we could have the fuel type. So over here you are defining the class bike and you are defining the attribute of that class and you are defining the behavior of that class. Now, if you want to access your class, how we can do that? We need to create the object of this particular class. And how we can create the object of this class? Simply you need to type bike and this, like this. Using this way you can create the object of your class, right? And after this, what you can do, you can access any method, right? You can access the explain attribute, similarly using the bike, and you can access the ride type as well. Let's execute this class. So see, we are getting that the color is none, tire size is none, price is none, fuel type is none, and move forward, right? These are the things. Now let's suppose we want to define few things, right? We want to define the color, tire size, price, and fuel type. So we can also define the bike object dot color equals to, you can define any color like blue, and execute your program again. Although we are defining the bike dot color equals to blue, but still while we are printing the attribute we are getting the color none. Why is this? Why we are getting the color none? So that is a tricky part. Why we are not getting the color although we are assigning the color? Are we doing any mistake over here? No, we are not doing any mistake. Program is running quite fine. So what is the issue? The issue is that whenever you are calling the class like this is the first time you are calling the bike class, second time you are calling the bike class, and third time you are calling the bike class. So basically you created the three object of this class, right? You created the three object of this class. This is the first object, this is the second object, and this is the third object. And every time you are creating the object of your class, that will store in a separate location in your computer memory. So this object, the second object, have no information about the first object. That's why you are not getting the color in the second one. This third object will not have any information about the first and second object. But why we are getting move forward? Because this is a static data. Wherever we have the dynamic data, we are not getting that data over here. So what is the way how we can assign the data to a object and we can access the same data from that object? The way is you need to store this particular object in a reference. So let's suppose we are creating a reference like bike1 equals to this. We are creating a reference, but we don't define the thing like this. First you need to create the reference, and after this, on that reference you can assign the values. So over here we are creating the object reference bike1 of this particular bike object, and on this reference I'm assigning this value. Now if you will call bike1 dot explain attribute, you will see it will print the color. Execute this and see, we are getting the color is blue, although the other details are null because we have not done that, right? We have not done that. Similarly, if I will remove this and I will create the another object reference like bike2 equals to bike, and define bike2 dot color equals to silver, and type bike2 dot explain attribute, execute your program. See, you are getting the two things. Color is blue, this is for the first object, and color is silver, this is for the second object. So as I told you that you can create the multiple object of a single class. Over here you see we are defining the code at a single place, but we are using it using the object at a multiple place. Now I can create the n number of object this particular bike, and I can define the separate values to these object. This object could belong to BMW, this object could belong to Ducati, similarly the other object could belong to some other company or some other bike model. But the basic properties of the bike is going to be the same. The value could be different on the basis of the object, whatever the object we are creating of that particular class. So you can see over here within the class, we are just defining the attribute and the behavior, but the actual data we are putting in an object. The actual data we are assigning to that particular thing in an object, right? So this is the fundamental of the class and the object. You can create the n number of object from a given class, and these object could have their own properties, their own values. Now let's move further. So we have seen how we can create the class, that classes are created using the keyword class. We created the class. Attributes are the variable that belongs to the class. We have seen that within our by class we have created few attributes, and behavior are the functions that belongs to the class. So we have also seen that we created the behavior, few functions, and how they are belong to the class, because every time whenever we accessed the things, we access the thing on a basis of the object. See, over here we are accessing the thing on a basis of the object. This behavior we are accessing on object bike2, and this behavior we are accessing on object bike1. So the behavior and attributes are belong to the class, and we can access them on the basis of the object. Attributes are always public. You cannot create the private attribute in the Python class, right? Although that is possible in the Java, but that is not possible in the Python. So attribute are always public and can be accessed using the dot operator. See, we are using the dot operator here to access the attributes and the behavior of my class. Now let's also see some theory about the object, although we have seen it. That what is the class object? The object is an instance of the class, and a class is like a blueprint, while the instance is a copy of the class with actual values. So we have seen that in the class we define the template, right? That is the blueprint. And in the object, we basically contain the actual values of the attributes of that particular class. There are three properties of the object. The first is a state. That object is represented by the attributes of the object. It also reflects the properties of the object. Each object will have their own properties. We have seen that bike 1 was having the on property and bike 2 was having the on property. So that represents the state of the object. Second is the behavior. It is represented by the method of the object, and it also reflects in the response of object to another object. So the behavior could be different for each object. Although we have not used the parameterized thing right now, but whenever I will create the parameterized function in the class, you will see that each object will have their own behavior. The behavior will vary like the state from object to object. And second is the identity. Each object will have its unique identity. So in our example, the bike 1 is object which have its unique identity bike 1, and bike 2 are the object which have its unique identity bike 2. So this is all about the classes and objects in the Python. I hope after this lecture you have no doubt regarding the classes and regarding the objects in the object oriented programming language. The thing is just not limited to the Python, that is a global concept which we discussed today. Thank you team. See you next time.